Hello, this is Franco Cabral broadcasting from the Honest Liar podcast, a conversation around finding the inner liar within all of us and leveraging the truth to create expansion across all areas of your life. Today's topic is this: the daily game. June of 2017, I went to my first Warrior event. It was called Wake Up. It was actually a Warrior Convention is what it was called. And I had an amazing time. I described how powerful this was for me during the Origins podcast and also, I believe, another podcast in the beginning around facts, feelings, focus, fruit exercise. But that was the awakening that made me realize where I was at. And I was in a really dark place, and I wasn't even aware of it. At that convention, the opportunity came up to make an investment to be a part of Wake Up Warrior. And I remember feeling this pull that I had to be a part of this. I didn't know why. I never felt more strongly about being a part of something, but I knew that this was what I was missing in my life. And they required a financial investment. And at that point, if you've listened back to some of my earlier podcasts, I was not paying myself. I was not making any money. And it was the first full year that I was in business. And I had made less than I made when I was 19 years old. And on the verge of losing my house, not really sure how I was going to figure this out. And I was presented with an opportunity to make a $5,000 investment of money that I didn't have. So I could not make that investment without talking to my wife about it. And she wasn't at this event. She didn't have the opportunity to feel what I felt, go through the experiences, and I really wasn't telling her anything at that time based on how I was really feeling. I was in a dark place, and she didn't know, but for me, this is the first time I felt not alone, and I was trying to describe this to her and why I needed her support to make this $5,000 investment. And her first reaction was absolutely not. And I don't blame her for this because she told me what I needed to hear at that time, but was extremely painful to hear because it was true. She said, I know that you're going to come back fired up. You're going to do the work and you're going to see some progress. And when you start to see some progress and you're no longer excited, you're going to go on to the next shiny toy, and we're going to be stuck with this $5,000 investment, and we're broke right now. And it hurt when she said this, and I was triggered as fuck. I collided with her. I told her, you don't understand. Why can't you support me? And I was a piece of shit at that time. No other way to put it, because my wife was the person who supported me the most. I just couldn't see it. And she was just reflecting back the truth. I just couldn't handle the truth. And the truth was, she didn't trust me. And I didn't really trust myself at the time, but I didn't even know. I went ahead and I made the investment, and she very reluctantly supported it after long conversations about it. But she also gave me the fuel that I needed to really stay committed. And at first it was to prove her wrong, which is the wrong reason to do anything. You should never be doing something to prove somebody else wrong. It should be about proving yourself right and, doing what serves you. So when I started this process, I started to learn about the Warrior's Way. And you've heard me talk about this before. And at the most simplistic core of the game, there was some basic fundamentals. Some of them, I've already described, which is tell the fucking truth. And, be honest, be real, raw, relevant, and produce results. The game broken down tactically, though, what I needed and what I was able to leverage most, because I knew that I was broken and now I was aware, but I didn't know what to do with that. So the basic fundamentals is to break it down to a daily game. And there's bigger targets that we shoot for throughout the course of the year and quarterly, but the daily game is where the game is won. And I didn't realize, I thought I had a production problem, and I was having a hard time figuring out business. But what I really had was a power problem. I was leaking power in all areas of my life, and most of them had nothing to do with business. But the leak in power was basically making it so that I couldn't produce. So they were all tied, and that's when I started to play this game of body, being, balance, and business. And the way that I played it, and I still play it to this day, is by focusing on hitting singles, not home runs. Home runs are sexy, the big, score, the big, contract, the big vacation for my family. But ultimately, it was these massive home runs, and then I didn't show up. And that's what created this distrust that my wife felt, and the distrust that I felt as well. When I started changing the way that I thought and going to this daily singles game, and just went to work consistently over time, my life started to change drastically because of the compounding effect of the daily game. So what do I mean by the daily game? In the Warriors way, we call it core 4. So body, being, balance, and business, which you've heard me talk about. Every single day, I make a daily deposit, 2 daily deposits in each of those domains as part of my morning routine. Usually I do my best to get it in before 8 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's later in the day. But I make these daily deposits, and then I keep track of the score. One of the other things that I learned is that you can't win if you can't keep score. And usually it's easy to keep score in business because it's my financial account. But I started applying the same concept of keeping score and track of my daily deposits across body, being, balance, and business. So diving a little deeper, starting with body. In body, every single day, I get 2 half points that equal 1 point for my body by doing 2 daily deposits. So one of them is to do something in fitness, and that doesn't mean a massive long workout. Sometimes I do a long workout, but the idea is to sweat and get your body moving, because movement creates energy, and you need energy to create power and to produce within your body. So that can be as simple as a 10 to 15 minute sweat. So you don't have to hit a home run every day. Now I'm at a place where I'm doing some pretty significant things in my body, but when I was learning to just create this discipline, it could be as simple as a 10-minute run. Or some days when I was tired and my body was sore, like today, actually, ironically, it was a 15-minute, or actually it was like a 12-minute yoga session. My body needed recovery, but I put my body in motion for the day, and I got my half a point by doing that today. The next step in body is fuel. So how I take care of myself nutritiously and what I put in my body. So every day I choose to put something nutritious into my body, which is a green drink. And I've tried different forms of a green drink. Sometimes I've done a smoothie. It has to be green with healthy, spinach, kale. There's many different recipes you can do to make it taste good. It doesn't have to taste bad. When I do smoothies, I used to do spinach, kale, bananas, sometimes protein powder, almond milk. Now I juice. So I juice because it serves me. I can do it on a Sunday and I can freeze them throughout the course of the week. But I put something nutritiously into my body, and that's my half a point that I usually have in the morning as well. Then being. Being is my spiritual connection. At that time when I started this process, I didn't even know if I believed in God. So I was in a very different place than I am spiritually now. But at that point, I wanted to start connecting with myself and figure out what spiritual direction I was going to be able to guide myself to eventually lead and guide my children. So 2 daily deposits that I do, and one of them I still do to this day. The other one I've changed quite a bit, and I've tried many different things. But it's to do a meditation and some sort of journal or memoir every single day. Again, it doesn't have to be a hour-long meditation or half an hour meditation. When I started with 5 minutes. Now I'm up to 10 to 15 minutes at least once a day. Sometimes I do multiple times a day, but every day I get half a point in my being by doing a meditation. The other half a point is by doing some sort of journal or memoir. And the concept with that is, for me, multiple different things that I get from that, but is starting to get out my feelings and connect with myself by journaling. I've done things like doing a voice memo to myself when I was working on loving myself. I did a journal series for 1 quarter on journal notes and basically just what I was feeling and revelations that I was getting in the moment, partially because I had a story that I was a shitty writer and I wanted to work on that. So that was immensely powerful. Now what I do is something called a stack. That's my memoir and it's my daily revelation. You've heard me talk about a stack, and I do that, I would say 6 out of 7 days a week, most weeks 7 out of 7. It's become a part of my day that is non-negotiable for me. And I also now have 2 years worth of revelations that are my legacy that I can leave for my kids someday and I can share. Lately, also, some of my memoirs have been posting on Facebook and Instagram and sharing, putting whatever lessons I'm getting and putting something out there. But the idea is something to connect with yourself, and it could be a prayer, it could be a meditation for one half a point. And then the other half a point is some sort of reflection that you're doing, a journal, a voice memo, something like that. Then balance. The most important relationships in your life. The first balance deposit that I make every day is one to my wife. And that can be in the format of a note on the mirror. It could be a sticky note that I leave sometimes in her car. I try to change it up. But it's something to align my heart with my wife every day and to stay consistent with that message of a relationship that matters so much to me, and I want to be intentional with some sort of daily deposit that's for me. Now, yes, there's many gifts that I get from giving a daily deposit and sending a message of love, appreciation, and honor every day to my wife. She gets something out of it too, but the purpose is not to get something back. It's to align my heart with something that matters to me daily. And then the second daily deposit, so I get half a point for that and another daily deposit, I choose. Many times I do my kids. I started an email 2 years ago for both of my children, and I send them emails. They can't read yet, but it's something that aligns my heart with them every single day. And someday it'll be a gift that I can give where I have already for my daughter, I think almost 200 emails over the last 2 years. And that's a gift that I can pass on someday, but it's my daily deposit, and massive things happen over time. And then in business, it's discover and declare. So learning something new every day, and it could be as short as a 5-10 minute podcast. My podcast could be a discover. And then declaring is sharing something to somebody else that you've learned to lock in that lesson for yourself. So the share could be something on social media. Many of my posts that you may have seen are part of my daily habit of declaring and sharing a lesson that I'm learning from something that I listened to or read on any given day as part of my daily deposits. So when you add all of those up, there are 8 mini tasks that I do to get myself in power for the day, and I get half a point for each of those. So 2 in body, 2 in being, 2 in balance, 2 in business, which equals 1 point for body, 1 point for being, 1 point for balance, and 1 point for business. And that's where the term core 4 comes from. Over the course of the week, I track this every single week, and the maximum score I can get on any given week of power is 28. So obviously you shoot for 28 out of 28, but this isn't a game of perfection, especially when you get started. You're trying to build the habit of these mini reps. you can do this, and when you start, it can be actually as quick as, an hour. And you might think that's crazy, an hour. You might not have the space. I didn't have the space. I created the space to give myself an hour to get myself in power for the day, because what I had was a leak of power, not a leak of production. I needed power to then produce in all areas of my life. And once I started doing this consistently over time, it became part of a routine that then gave me massive power. But I had to be willing to do the reps and work through it. And yeah, at first it was a lot to do. And, I didn't play the perfection game. I got frustrated. Now it's part of my life. And every single week, I track every area of my life. And it is never a coincidence when I'm having an off week, or I'm not feeling centered in my life, or colliding, in areas of my life, and things aren't going the way that I want them to. My core 4 score has a lot to do with it. When my core 4 score doesn't mean that life is perfect when I do well, but the way I handle life is very different because I'm in power for the day versus not. So this game of the daily singles, compounded over time, has drastically changed my entire life. My fitness is on fire and more consistent than it has ever been in my entire life. The doctor said that I'm in the best health that I've ever been in the last time I went for a checkup. I'm more spiritually connected than ever. I believe in God. I have a deeply connected relationship with God. My relationship is better than it's ever been with my wife, and it continues to evolve, and we continue to do the work to get to a better place and work through our shit, because it's not perfect. The marriage takes a lot of work. My relationship and connection with my kids is consistently growing, and many other relationships, because of this daily game I play. And in business, I continue to evolve and grow. My business continues to grow. And a lot of this growth has to do with the production, the power, because more power I have, the more I'm able to produce. So this is the message for the daily game. I'm going to continue to share tactics, not just strategies and lessons that I've learned throughout the sharing of this podcast. I'm working through my routines, and I'm going to start creating more structure to how I'm going to be sharing and putting out these messages, so that you can expect lessons on certain weeks. But as always, I ask, if you get value from this, please take the time to share this with other people that you think would resonate with this message. And also rate and review this podcast. It helps with spreading the light of this message. I'm grateful for the space that you have given me. And remember, take a time to look in the mirror, be honest with yourself, and leverage the truth to create the expansion that you desire in your life. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.